All right, we are live. We are live. I hope you are doing well this Saturday. Welcome to day number 4 of 10 days of Money Momentum. This one's going to be fun. As you could tell, I am not in my normal studio because it is my little granddaughter Aria's first birthday. So we are out here. So I'm going to give a chance for some people to jump in. Let me know where you're coming in from. I've got you live here on Instagram right here. I see some familiar names, I'd say familiar faces, but I can't get a chance to see you. And I have LinkedIn. I've got all the other ones over here. So we are on this together. I see Melissa from Vermont. Flip a key. She is here again. Love it. Love it. You know, here's the interesting thing. You know, I've been getting some DMs from some of you that have been participating. And first off, thank you. I appreciate them. I appreciate you taking the time. It means a lot to be able to have the conversations in a way that help you, that drive you, that move you to a better place. So this is kind of cool to see. So let's keep the dialogue going. Yeah, it's lagging on Facebook. You know, you never know what Zuckerberg's doing. So, um, and everything. So Kansas City's in the house, Ohio's in the house. So good to have you all. All right. Hopefully you had a chance to take a look at today's prompt, today's exercise. This is actually really, really important. So we have been through 3 days. What I'm doing is we're moving down the obstacles, and then we're going to move up the assets. We're going to move up the things that'll actually move you towards wealth, but not just wealth. It's really about living a richer life. It's about doing things that actually make a difference, that enrich your life, and not only enrich your life, but the people around you, the people you love, the people you get to live life with and share life with, to be able to do that. And so this is one of those that comes into play here. So I'm going to jump in. We're going to talk about some around the prompt a bit, and then I'm going to open up for some questions. And I do have a framework that I'm going to share with you about this day's prompt, and walk through some things that I think we ought to be considering, and hopefully this helps drive some things for you. So keep the chat going, keep the conversation going, and let's jump in. Listen, here's the thing. Today's prompt was: are you spending your time, or are you investing your time? And it's really this one's a powerful one, because it's what we're really talking about here is the most important investment you can ever make. It is the most important asset you ever have. Yet we disregard it. Yet we give it away freely. Yet we devalue it. And I want to have a real conversation around this, because the most important asset you have is your time. The most important investment you can make is with your time. It's the one thing that once it's gone, you can't get it back. I can't go produce more. I'm my son's house. He's got a guitar pick. Okay. If we run out of guitar picks, we can go make more. If I run out of time, I can't go make more. And the crazy thing is, we don't know how much time we have. We just know that it's finite. The question is, how are you spending it? What are you doing with your time? You know, what can you do that makes it valuable? And so too often we spend time versus investing time. Investing time enriches our lives. Investing time grows us. And so I want us to start to look at it through those eyes, to start to understand that Drew is in the house. Drew Hitchcock, he's always there, my friend. Thank you. We have to catch up. So the idea is this: time is an asset. It's your most limited asset. We cannot produce anymore. We cannot get any more. We can beg, plead, steal, borrow, but we can't get any more. It's just not going to happen. But we don't know how much time we have. So the question is, how are you going to spend it? It is the one place that you are as wealthy as Elon Musk. You are as wealthy as Warren Buffett. You are as wealthy as Mark Zuckerberg. You are as wealthy as the wealthiest people in the world. Then what's the difference? See, because they have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just like we do. Question is, what are they doing with it? What are you doing with it? And so it's the only asset that we can add to. So this is the thing to start to look at. And this is why this prompt today, is because here's what I know. The things you do with your money today need to be in service of the future you want to create tomorrow. Let me say that again. The things you do with your money today need to be in service of the future you want to have tomorrow. And what happens is that we tend to not do things, invest into our growth, into our world, to make things happen in a way that allow us to have a better tomorrow. And I get it. We live in a society right now of immediate instant gratification. You know, YOLO, the whole YOLO movement. You only live once. So why not throw caution to the wind and live today? And that's totally fine until tomorrow comes and you got nothing. How about we live today, but we also make sure that we have a really fruitful tomorrow? How about we live today in a way that gives us the promise of freedom, the promise of richness, the promise of peace in the future, where we're not dependent on government, we're not dependent on someone else, that we get a chance to control it. And it's possible. It's everything we do in Affluence Blueprint and in building our money machine, in my upcoming book, Build Your Money Machine. All of that is really in there. Here's the thing. It's when we start to do things, and I'm gonna jump to a framework. Y'all on Instagram will not be able to see it, but I will describe it to you. But you on every other platform will be able to see it. So I'm going to jump to a framework here that I call the time money spectrum. And I think it's important for us to understand, because we come from an industrial age level of thinking, and that industrial age level of thinking still exists today. We have moved forward from a technology standpoint. We have moved forward from an economic standpoint, but some of the process systems and the way we do things have not moved forward. Because what ends up happening is that at the very beginning of earning, of doing the things that we want to do, we spend our time for money. And what I mean by this is this: whether you have a job, whether you have a business, whether you are salaried, whatever it is, we're using our time to make money. We go put our 8 hours in a day, we put our 40 hours in a week. We go sell consulting. I came from the accounting world. We sold hours. That was it. Billable hours, realization. That's what it was. Let me tell you something. Here's what happens when you reduce your ability to create revenue, your ability to create income, to a mathematical equation of hours times dollars. You limit. Not only do you limit your upside, but you also commoditize what you do. You cheapen it. The timesheet was created in 1919. It should have been burned at the stake in 1920. It is the worst business model out there. Yet we still carry it. We still use it. We still work from it. And so the problem is that at the core of it, we spend a lot of time selling our time for money. And if we don't move from there, there's a ceiling. If we don't move from there, there's a limitation. Now, one of the things is to realize is this, is that at some point, what we need to do, if we're going to truly build wealth, if we're truly going to get that financial freedom, if we're going to give and create that money machine at a level that's going to give us the freedom that we want, the freedom that we deserve, we need, the larger the shovel is that is shoveling our income, the faster we will get there, the faster we will find our path to that. So the key is that, can I elevate my earnings, get a bigger shovel? Can I elevate my income, get a bigger shovel? And use that to give us the today that I want and give us the future that I deserve. Okay. Hopefully this is making sense. Okay. Because here's what we know is that if we have that bigger shovel, we have more to throw at the future. It also gives us a better today. But if we put ourselves in a position where we limit our upside, where we limit our ability to make money, then what happens is that that we can't grow ourselves out of it. Okay. Now, what ends up happening if we start to look at it from this perspective is at some point, and I'll talk about how we transition. We move from time for money. Now, some people never move from that paradigm, but at some point we move from time for money where we start to use our money to buy back our time. Here's what I mean by that is that think about this is that you sit back, for instance, look, first off, you don't want me using any kind of tools, gardening tools, this and that. I remember mowing up my parents' lawn one time with borrowed the neighbor's electric lawnmower. Okay. Big blades, powerful mower, electricity, not a good recipe. All right. And I ran over the electric cord, shocked the hell out of me, and blew all the circuits in the house. Okay. So clearly, I shouldn't be doing any kind of yard work or repair work or anything like that because it does. I don't do it well. Let's put it that way. So here's the thing. When we make money, instead of having to spend our time to do other things, we can use that money to buy our time back. Yes, you're going to pay someone to do the gardening. You're going to pay someone to do the things that maybe you don't want to do. But what it is meant to do, yes, it helps you. But what are you really doing? You're getting your time back. I get my time back instead of an hour in the yard. Now, maybe you love doing that, and that's great because it gives you some other currency, gives you some other element to it. But if you don't love it, then why not do it? Why not find a place or someone else to do it so you can have the time back to do the things that you enjoy? That's where we start to find the richness. We start to do things and we start to bring the money in, and we use the money now to sit back and say, wait a second, I want some time. And so I use the money to buy my time back. Now, so that's the first two stages, which is where most people will play. There'll be a group of people that will stay down in that lower level where they're just constantly punching a time clock and trading time for money. Then there will be those that sit back and say, hold on a second. I'm making enough money. Maybe I don't need to do this. Let me get someone else to do it. I'll get my time back and I'll go do something I enjoy. I'll start creating memories with the people I love. I'll start creating rich feelings in the process of the things that we get a chance to do. Okay. But there's a third level. And there's a third level, and this is the level that I want for you. And I'll talk about how you transition from one to the next. And that third level is when you start to trade your money for more money. Okay. When you start to trade your money for more money. The whole idea of the book, of the book is the book is Build Your Money Machine, how to get your money to work harder for you than you ever did for it. Okay. When my money is creating more money than my efforts do, that's the key to my freedom. You know, that's the thing, is that our income that we earned last year was really good. But the level of growth from the money was far greater than the level of growth from our income and our efforts. The key here is that at some point, what we want to do is make sure that we shift the relationship between our effort and our input and the output. See, time for money is typically 1 for 1. I put effort in and I get 1 unit of effort back. Money for time, we're getting we're getting more back than 1. So we'll put 1 unit of effort in, and I'm going to get a couple of units back. But money for money, we're putting very little effort in, and we're getting units back. That's the key. So we want to over time start to move through this this money time, time money spectrum that I call it, between the three levels. Now, how do we do that? So, in order to move from time for money to money for time, the focus that you need to have is on value. Okay. If our focus is on the hours we spend, the coaching um, sessions that we sell, the therapy sessions we do, the personal training sessions that we do, the hours it takes to do a tax return, the hours it takes for a project, what we're doing is we're commoditizing the things we do. So we're not selling the value of a solution, we're selling the value of an hour. Well, there's no value. There is a value in the hour, but it's too difficult because what you've done is reduced it down to a mathematical equation: hours times dollars. Rather, what we need to look at is start to look at the value of what we do. If you are creating a solution, let's say that you're a marriage family therapist, and you've got a couple that comes in, their marriage is on the rocks. And I get it. You're going to do a bunch of sessions with them. But through those sessions, all of a sudden, you completely transform their relationship. You help them find the passion, you help them find the love, you help them find the life that they were starved for, that they wanted, that they thought they had. You give that life back to them. What's that worth? I would submit to you it is worth more than an hour. And so we need to start to look at, when we start to shift our attention away from time for money, and we swap our money for time, we start to look at the things and the value of the solution we create. When someone hires me, I get involved with tax disputes and different things to help negotiate and work through things, selling companies, those kinds of things. And if I'm coming in and they have a $20 million, I got hired on a project, it was a $20 million tax thing. And I was able to save them not $5, $5 million. It didn't matter whether it took me 10 hours or 100 hours. The value of the solution was 5 million. Do you think at that point they're worried and doing the math between my hours used and my billable rate? Do you think that writing a $100,000 check to get them $5 million makes sense? See, it's an ROI calculation, but it's a different calculation than time versus money. It's the value versus the investment that they make. And that's the thing that we need to start having conversations around. How do we have value conversations around what you bring to the world? Too often we cheapen what we do. Even if we're going in to ask for a raise, you're working at a job and you're going to ask for a raise. How about we look at the value you brought to the company? How about we look at beyond the time? There's folks that will sit back and say, I've worked here for a decade, so you owe it to me. No, honestly, they don't owe you anything. It doesn't matter how long you work there. I'm sorry, that sounds rough. But just because time served doesn't entitle you to more unless you're bringing more value. You grow, the company grows, your life grows. It's easier to justify additional compensation, additional value, and doing it in that way. Yeah, most of my charges are not hourly. The only time I charge hourly is when I have to in a litigation or in a certain government contracts that I get involved with. It's project based. Okay, it's value based. And so this is the thing that I want us to start to look at is ask yourself, what's the value you create? Take the time to understand what that looks like. Take the time to critically evaluate it and celebrate the value that you have. Most of you are far more valuable to the world than you give yourself credit for. So that's the transition that moves you from time for value to money for time. Time for money for time is that we get value focused. To transition to the next stage from money for time to get money for money, we actually have to have an investment focus. How do we invest? How do we invest our time and how do we invest our money so it works better for us than we did for it? We need to have a system, a process, and we'll talk about it in one of the other sessions that allows you to say, I'm going to take this amount of money and invest it to get so it will work for me. And over time, it will produce more money. And over time, it'll produce more money than your efforts will produce. That's your money machine. That's your money machine. Okay? That's how this thing plays out. Okay? So in order to transition from time for money, I want you to start to focus on value. In order to transition from money for time into money for money, we need to focus on investments and investing your time wisely to grow your value, to grow the thing from value to investment. Yep. Yes. Okay. So I want to do something with you because one of the things that I want to look through is let's just take a look at where you are and calculating your value, calculating where you should be if you were going to do it on an hourly basis. Because one of the mistakes that we make is that we look to the right or the left. We look at our competitors. We look at the industry. We look at the folks that are around us to try and figure out what should we build. You know, they may say, well, I can't bill $1,000 an hour. Why not? Who says you can't? Who says you can't? Oh, well, the industry does. Really? Since when was the industry setting prices? I can tell you that sometimes the amounts that I bill are far in excess of the industry. Far in excess of the industry. Your ability to articulate your value becomes really important. Now, let me be really clear. Once you articulate the value and you get the compensation, you better deliver the results. You better get the results, because if we can't back up with results, it'll be short-lived. So don't oversell yourself and then sit back and not get the results. Let's get the results. Now, all of a sudden, no one's going to question paying it. It becomes a drop in the bucket. Instead of sitting back saying, I can't charge $1,000 an hour, say, how can I make $1,000 an hour a steal? How do I give enough value in my solutions that they look at it and go, shoot, I made better on the deal than they did? Here's the math that I want you to think about. If you're going to look at it from an hourly standpoint, and when I do training with thought leaders to help them understand how they need to price themselves, because I get this question about how do I price myself. Let's just look at some math, okay? For those of you that are doing it, and I'll do the math for you. Let's assume that you want to make $250,000 a year, okay? $250,000 a year, okay? But it's not enough to sit back and say $250,000 a year. We need to understand what the value, the minimum billable value of every hour is, to make sure that we get to that point. And the way you do that, because if all we look at is the number of hours, we're capped. Unless you're going to work 24/7, you're capped. And you can't look at it. The typical full-time year is 2,050 hours. Okay. Well, I doubt that you're going to build 2,050 hours, and I doubt that you want to build it. So what we're going to look at is you're going to say to yourself, how many hours a day do I want to work? How many days a week do I want to work? How many weeks a year do I want to work? And the end result of that math is to get me to $250,000. So let me do some math for you. Let's assume that you want to work 6 hours a day, and I'm looking at my notes because I want to make sure I get the math right. 6 hours a day, 4 days a week, and only 48 weeks out of the year. You're going to take one whole month off. Okay. 6 hours a day, 4 days a week, because we want a long weekend. And we're going to work 48 weeks a year. We're going to take a month off. What that means is that you will have 1,152 hours when you do the math. Okay. When you do the math, okay. 6 times 4 times 48 is 1,152 hours. That's what you have to make the $250,000 is the thing that you have. So you're looking at it and say, oh, okay, I've got that. But before you do the math there, we need to always also look at it and say, well, if that's all I'm doing is 6 hours a day, 4 days a week, and 48 weeks a year, not 100% of those hours are productive hours. In other words, what I call dollar productive. In other words, they're producing revenue. I have to do operations. I have to do billing. I have to do management. I have to do business development. I have to do all kinds of other things that aren't revenue generating. So let's take some of those hours away and now look at it. So let's presume, just for assumptions, that 25% of your time is done in non-dollar productive activities. In other words, it's not generating revenue. It's not billed to a client. We're not getting paid for it. 25%. So that takes the 1,100, that's 288 hours. That takes the $1,152, 52 hours down to 864 hours. That's the number of hours you get to use to try and produce $250,000 if that was your target. What does that do? If I take the $250,000 divided by the 864 hours, that tells me that my minimum ability to bill has to be $298 an hour. Otherwise, I won't hit the 250. So it allows me to understand my floor from a dollar value standpoint when you do this math. And so I know that $300 is the floor. And if I'm not going to net $300 an hour, I'm not hitting my target on the other end. And so I need to be smart about the value of those hours, because that's all I got. That's all I got. So the key here is this, is that a lot of folks will say, well, if I charge, I think it's risky to charge too much. I actually think it's riskier to charge too little. People get used to it, and they think that you're the discount house. I don't think any of you are the discount house. I think you all deserve to be paid your worth. I think you all deserve to have paid your value. And when you increase your value by skilling up, by doing things, by growing personally, by growing professionally, you deserve to get paid more too. That's how I think that we need to look at it. And then you look at it from this perspective. You say, once I know what my value is, you get clear on it and you have conviction to it. I remember this was years ago when I first started out. I was in a meeting with a top tax attorney. He's no longer with us, but he was one of the top in the country. So he always had big projects. He brought me in on one of the first projects he brought me in on. We sit in the boardroom, we go through the meeting, and then the client asks the question, how much is this going to cost? And what did I do? I freaked out because I hadn't got this down yet. And I hemmed and hawed. I hesitated. I stumbled. How many of you have ever done that? And then I spit it out and I got it out. And then the client says, great, send me an engagement letter. Let's get started. Client leaves. This attorney looks at me and he says, if you ever hem and haw or ever stumble like that again, I will never send you or bring you in for another project. And I go, I'm sorry. And he says, no. He says, here's the problem. The reason you hemmed and hawed and the reason you hesitated, the reason you stumbled is you think that the price that you put out there is your problem. He says it's not. You have an expertise, you have an experience, you have results, you have done things that have given you the skill set to serve this client at a higher level, and you have the ability to do that, and you deserve to get paid. The thing that you need to do is put the price on the table, whatever it is, and let them deal with it, because it's not your problem, it's theirs. And just sit there in the conviction of the value you're going to deliver, the solutions you have, the experience and the background you have, and just let it sit. And if they don't take it, it has no reflection on you. And that's when things shifted. So we have to stay in the conviction of the value of what we have, and sit in the indifference of them making a decision. Not that you don't care if they hire you or buy into it or not. What I mean is that my job is to inform the person, the people that I'm negotiating with, as much as possible, to answer all their questions, to be fully informed. And as long as they make an informed decision, if the decision is for me, great. If the decision is not, fine too. My job is to make sure that whoever's sitting across the table from me is at the red light or the green light, not the yellow light. The most dangerous light on the road is the yellow light. I want them to be all in or all out. And the only way we get them there is making sure that they are fully informed, and stand in the conviction of what you deliver and call it a day. I don't negotiate fees. It's just the way it is. These are the fees. So I hope that you start to look at this in a different way, and you start to build it in a different way, and you start to view the value you bring in a different way. Because what that's going to allow you to do is expand the shovel that you have to build your wealth, to build your money machine, to give you the financial freedom you deserve. Hopefully this is hitting home and this is resonating. You start to look at it differently. Sit in the conviction of your value, and sit in the indifference of their decision. I don't care which way they go. I just care that they were fully informed, and they make a fully informed decision. I'd love them to work with me, but not everyone can work with me. And I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I totally get it. But I'm going to serve, I'm going to support, I'm going to inform, and I'm going to allow them to make a fully informed decision. Okay. So here's the exercise I want you to do to help you with this, to start to understand where you're coming from. Okay. For the next 7 days, I want you to track a few things, because then you'll start to see where your time is being spent, where your time is being invested. Okay. First, I want you to track for the next 7 days how many hours you are spending on revenue generating activities, sales conversations, content that leads to sales, doing delivery of whatever your solutions are, whether it's sessions, products, anything like that. So I want you to track how many hours over the next 7 days are spent on revenue generating activities. Okay. Second, I want you to track how many hours are spent over the next 7 days on personal care time. Yeah, personal care time. I get up usually at 4:30 in the morning. Okay. My wife don't get up that early. That gives me peace. That gives me space. And it's Budo and me. I'll read, I'll write, I'll listen, I'll contemplate. I'll then go to the gym. I'll work out for a good hour and a half. And then I come back. Budo and I go down on the beach. We spend a good 45 minutes, just him, me, and the beach. And we spend time. Then we come back. I make a shake. I'm ready to get on with the day. How much personal care time are you taking? How much personal care time are you planning in your year? At the beginning of the year, my wife and I, we spend the time looking at the year and say, each 90 days, where are we going to plant our blocks of time to allow us to rejuvenate, to reconnect, and to reflect. And we block the time at the beginning to make sure that we've given time for us. Because let's face it, if we are in ill health, ill attitude, we aren't feeling good about ourselves, we're not taking care of ourselves. I don't care how good your bank account looks. Okay. So let's make sure that you understand that are you spending, and you may not be spending a lot of time on personal care time. You'll fix that. This will bring it up. The third thing I want you to track over the next 7 days is your growth hours, your growth time. How much time are you spending growing personally, growing professionally, whether it's mindset, whether it's skill set, okay? Whether it's the subset of people you're with, the network that you're with. So mindset, skill set, subset. How many hours are you spending there? Are you reading? If you want to be financially free, are you reading books, watching videos, going through trainings to get to understand investing and money and all of these things? I know you're here with me. I can't wait to get my book in your all's hands. Okay. Going through my show, the podcast. How much time are you spending to grow personally? If you're trying to develop your relationship better, are you spending time becoming a better partner, a better parent? See, personal growth, professional growth, whether you do it or not, it all has to be intentional. And so I want to see how much you're spending there, or I want you to see how much you're spending there that allows you to the opportunity to say, ooh, I need to spend a little more here for a little bit of time. Then the next one I want you to track is non-revenue generating activities. This is the office work you might be doing. This might be the filing you might be doing. This might be the other work around the house you might be doing. Doesn't mean it's wrong or right. It just means it is, and now you'll be aware of it. Now you'll be aware of it. Okay. And then the last thing I want you to track over the 7 days is empty time. You know what empty time is? When you get sucked down the black hole of funny cat videos on YouTube, or you're mindlessly scrolling on TikTok. It's empty time. It didn't grow you. It didn't relax you. It didn't move you forward. It didn't do anything. And before you know it, the time is gone. Okay. Oh, and on the personal care time, that includes sleep. That includes sleep. How much sleep are you getting? All right. This is the key. This is the thing that I want you to do. So 7 days, I want you to track your revenue generating activities, personal care time, growth hours, non-revenue generating, and your empty time. It's going to allow you to get a view into it. And if you sit back and you say, wow, I got a lot of empty time, a lot of non-revenue generating time, no personal time, and no real growth time, then you know why things aren't growing. Now we need to shift it. Now we have a recipe. Now we have something where we can turn the dials and we can fix some things. That's the thing that we want to do. All right. That's what I wanted to give you today. This value of your time. I want you to start to value the minutes, the moments. They matter. They matter. I don't know what your history is. I don't know what your background is. I don't know if you've stared mortality in the face. I have. And when you realize that your days, hours, and minutes are limited, you make them matter. You make them mean something. That's where the richness comes from. The money, we get you the money, But the money is the one that gives you the flexibility and the choice to be able to choose how you want to spend those minutes, those moments, and the time of your life. That's what I want. All right. All right. With that, I'm going to open it up for questions, see if anyone's got any questions. I'll field some questions before we sign off and let you guys get on with your day. This was fun. This was a huge one, and we've got a fun one coming up tomorrow. We will do another one tomorrow. So let's see if we've got any questions coming in. I see Justin, you're saying Brian Tracy or Tony Robbins ? I'm not sure what that is. I know both of them. Brian Tracy just had his birthday, by the way. So, any questions? Sit in the conviction. Okay, I've got that. Melissa's here. Any questions? Anything else coming up for anyone on anything? Not just this. Money questions, financial questions, investing questions, anything. I'm here. Good to see you, brother. Love seeing you in the game. Oh my God, thank you so much, man, Jared. I feel good. I am in the game, and we're in big time. So, y'all are going to be with me for a while. We've got, like I said, my new book is coming out June 11th, and I want it to be us launching it, not just me launching it. So when we get cover designs, I'm going to invite you to vote on it. We're going to go on a journey together. I want to make financial freedom, money conversations a way of life. I wanted to make it something that's open, safe conversations, because I think financial freedom is a birthright. And this year is the year we're going to go claim it. My granddaughter, the one that's having the birthday today, she's 1 year old. Aria is 1 year old, and we got another one that's 2.5. So they're these little princesses. So we have to make time for important activities that you have just mentioned. Sometimes we move the urgent stuff, but not the important ones. Yeah, and I think that sometimes we see things as emergencies, and they really aren't. They really aren't. When I was doing a lot of valuation work, valuing businesses for companies in expert witness stuff and all that stuff, I'd get a call from an attorney, and it's urgent. It's urgent. It's urgent. Well, I got news for you. Ain't no valuation emergency. There just isn't. It's not an emergency. And just because you may have mismanaged the project and now it's behind the 8 ball doesn't mean that your mismanagement becomes my emergency. It's just the way it is. And we train them to do this. So, Jared, so where do we sign up for the book release? As soon as we finalize the cover, we're going to open it up, and then we're going to bring people in. So stay in this sphere. Make sure, because I will be announcing it. I will let people know, because I want to build a team of you. I call it the affluent allies. Let's go out there and let's get the message out to the world. So, all right, let me get these questions. You speak truth. Thank you. It says Facebook user. I don't know who it is. It says, cheers, Mel. Wishing you the best. You speak true words. Congratulations on the book. Thank you so very much. It says, sounds like a change of thinking to go from time to value. Any books you recommend? Melissa, there isn't a lot of books on this topic. I'm going to tell you to go watch an episode of my show. Look for the episode of Getting Paid Your Worth, because I actually start to break down further and deeper frameworks on how to articulate and how to move through that. But I don't know of any books that really, there's some things on value building out there, but nothing that I think is so powerful that it helps you really move through it. And that's kind of why I speak on it a fair amount, especially to people that bill on an hourly basis. Said, haven't raised my prices in 2 years. How I can get out of the fear stage of raising prices. Yeah, it's the episode that says there's an episode out there that says Getting Paid Your Worth. It's my show. So go to Affluent Entrepreneur on YouTube or on the podcast, and you'll see it there, getting paid what you're worth. So how do you get out of the fear stage of raising prices? Here's the interesting thing. The fear a lot of times is internally based. It is, and this is Desiree. Here's what I want you to do is we actually just need to start raising them. Now, you may turn around and find that people don't really push back on it, depending on how much you're going to raise them. But the fact that you haven't raised your prices in 2 years tells me that you're probably locked in. Now, I'll tell you something. So this is gonna age me here. In 1996, I got pushed out by my partners. At that time, they were billing about $125 an hour. I was billing at $175 an hour. I don't know where they are today, but I know a decade later, they went from $125 an hour to $180 an hour. So they moved up to $180 an hour. I was billing at $500 an hour by that time. And the thing is that we continue to do our math and say, well, I'm only billing $100 an hour, so I'm going to raise it to $110 an hour. You're still doing the math. The question really is, what's the value of the solution you're providing, so we can start to create a conversation around the value that they get out of it versus the hourly rate that you're billing. Okay. And it may be a transition to project billing. It may be a transition to bundle billing. So if I'm doing if I'm a coach, if I'm a consultant, a lot of my clients, they bill on I bill a monthly retainer. They pay me on my elite clients. I take 3 to 5 clients a year where I am basically their family CFO. Both for their personal side and their business side, and I'm stand by their side and work with them and run with them. They pay a monthly retainer. And some months I'm on the phone with them or on Zoom calls with them 4, 5, 6 times. Some months it's one time. It evens out in the end. But I know that the objective for me is to get a solution for them, not to bill a certain number of hours. And so I'm going to invite you to start to look at it. And as you bring in new clients, just adjust your prices. Give it a shot. The first time I went from $150 an hour to $300 an hour was not because I did it. I was in a conversation with someone, and because I articulated the solution I had so well, they looked at me and said, all right, so what's this going to cost me? And someone like you is probably billing $300 an hour. And I go, that's funny. That's exactly what I bill. And so immediately in an instant, they raised my fee to $300 an hour. But I would have never put that out there in that case. But they put it on the table first. First things first. In a negotiation, you don't put the first number on the table. Okay? But that's what happened. All right. Let me see this other question. This is from Allison. How do you measure the appropriate amount of time to value in each of the areas we are tracking to create the affluent life? This is a great question. So here's the thing. It's different for everyone. When we start out, when I work with my clients one-on-one, or when I work in Affluence Blueprint or anything, or even in the book, the very first thing is to define what kind of life you want. What is affluence for you? Remember, it's meaningful, impactful, fruitful, and peaceful. What does that look like? How much travel do you want? How much time do you want here? What do you want to do? So once you understand what your affluent life looks like, because mine is different than yours. Some people would love to be in a tent in Montana. Others want the yacht in Monaco. If there's any question, I'll take the yacht in Monaco. So the thing is that we need to decide what your affluent life is. I can't decide it for you. Now, once you decide it, then the real gist of this is then saying, okay, what's the price tag to make that happen? And that tells you how big of a money machine you need to create. And that's the target. And from that time, you are then going to allocate your hours to make it work. Now, here's the thing. It's not going to be a set it and forget it thing right now. just so you know, we're in the pre-launch for the book. The book is gonna publish on June 11th. I know that this next 6 months, basically to the end of June, is going to be high intensity, a lot of work around the book. A lot of work around the book. So I know that the times are going to adjust, and where my focus, my energy, and effort is going to be really book related right now. And then once we move out of June 30th, it'll reshift. But right now, it has to be that. And so the real key right now is just for you to understand that you're being intentional with your time, rather than just allowing the current of your time to just drag you along. So the key is to be very, very intentional. So I'm very intentional with where I spend my time, what I do, who I do it with, and how I do it. And now, that intentionality is coming from the plan that you put in place, the vision that you have for your life. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helps. Great questions. All right, y'all. I hope that this helps. All right. Tomorrow morning, I will drop another prompt, another focus prompt, another micro exercise for you. This is day number 5 tomorrow. This is the halfway point. Stay with me. We got 6 more days of this left. We're going to keep building. We're going to keep growing. We're going to keep moving you. This is the great money reset for you for 2024. I want us to get to the point where 2024 is a financially breakthrough year for you, and that we look back on this in 12 months and you go, man, good thing we did this. All right. So much more to come. Let's have some fun. And in the meantime, I'll make sure that those of you that are on the list, you'll get the email, you'll get to the replay page. All the replays are going up. The replay for this will be up later today. If you're not on the list, just go to melabraham.com/momentum. We'll get you on the list. I'll get you the link to the replays, so you have the replays and you can work from there. All right. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I got a 1-year-old birthday to get to. All right. Cheers and blessings to you all.